Hello and welcome, this is Vital Elements, here again with another tutorial. Today I'm going to show you my default setup. Now this is the file that I will open upon opening a new project every time. It saves me an awful lot of time. It's loaded with a lot of things and I'm going to go through it one by one here and show you what I do and how I set it up. And you can use this idea and use this setup as a basis for what you want to do. Obviously everyone's different, everyone has different sound cards and different setups, but this is a run through of my setup. I've got Cubase 9.5, so I'm having to set up a default there. I've been having a few problems with it working with my sound cards, so I don't want to bring in an old Cubase project. I want to set it up all new and keep testing to see what the problem is. So I will show you this and we can have a look at what I do and how I save myself a lot of time. So first of all, what you're going to do is load the folder tracks. I like keeping things in folders. I do a few different folders, sometimes more than others, but this is my default. The first one I'm going to do is drums, and I'm also going to color them. I like to keep things the same colors. Obviously this is a default project, so things are the same colors all the time, and it gives your subconscious an idea of where the pattern of the project is and where you are in the project just by the colors, and where to go to search. So I've done drums, bass, leads, vocals, and then after that we're going to do SFX. I'm colouring them as I go. Like I say, I can't sort of say enough how good that is. The last one there I'm going to do as actually I'll delete those. I think those are good enough for the basis. Sometimes I do have more, but I'm trying to minimise things a little bit because some of my projects got a bit big. So the next up, I'm going to do my inputs and outputs. Now this would all be relevant to your sound card and your inputs and outputs and what you have. I have a lovely Allen and Heath analog to digital desk, so I set up all my inputs and outputs here so I can go out from the door to my analog desk, mix it through the desk and come back in, and also the inputs act for my synths and anything else that I'm adding on the desk for an input if I'm recording. So next up we're going to load some group channels. I have got all these on shortcuts, but I'll go into the menu just to sort of show you. I think I will do something on shortcuts and key commands. It's a very good tool, so I think I'll do another video on that another time, because this one will be long enough just doing the default. So we're going to load a couple of mono groups first of all. Now these groups for me are acting as interchangeable, so I can have them all going into a master setting on the group, which I use. Say a master setting is very minimal what I use, but I do use a few things on the master, and I want them to be interchangeable so that I can also send them out to my outputs, and that's why, as you see here, I'm naming everything. When I was doing the inputs outputs, I'm putting A and H in and A and H out, Allen and Heath. Here, when I'm naming the groups, I want to be naming all of the things with abbreviation of group at the end. The reason for naming things properly is a bit like the colours. Navigating a project is impossible if you haven't named things properly, especially so if you go back to that project after it's out your head a few weeks later or what have you. You've worked on other things, you've been doing other stuff, and then you try and work your way around it. The way this is being set up is a way that after a couple of months of using this, the speed you would have navigating the project would be noticeably different. Some of you probably already do. I've noticed other people doing a few things saying about organisation of projects, and I couldn't agree more. I used to be a bit bad at this, but I take a lot of time and care these days to keep it organised, because after the amount of years I've been doing it, trust me, it's a lot better for you if it is all in one place, all organised, all written properly and all navigatable. So we've written out the groups there. I'll go through them. We've got the kick, the sub there, the monos, we've got percussion and the snare, then leads, we've got the pads group, a vocal group, SFX group, effects send group, and as you see here, they're all there, inputs, outputs groups, and all ready to go. Now that makes the mixer quite big already. You can hide things. You can just go up to the visibility, and you see those little ticks next to things. You can just untick and hide whatever channels you want to hide if they're in the way and you don't want them getting in your way. But I like to use these as levels. I see them all as levels. Now I've set up a few things, you know, with my colors and preferences. So groups are green, inputs are red, and outputs are orange and stuff like that. These are just things that in my mind I've used colours for a lot of times, and I keep using colours for certain things. When I use rewire, I bring it in and make it brown, you know, just all sorts of things, just so that my head can see things quickly. The way the brain works, colour is good. Unless you're colourblind, of course, you know, then that's not so good. So what I'm doing here now is routing, setting up the routing. Like I said, this is why you want to name things. I've got a lot of different things. I've got inputs, outputs, and I've got my group, so I want everything labelled clearly so that when I'm putting things in various places and looking at routing, it's quite clear what I'm doing, because the last thing you want to do is put it into the wrong thing and then be wondering why you can't hear no sound. So what I do there is the kick drum, the snare drum, the percussion all go into another group called drums, and then that can have like a drum bus on it. Then the next channels, all the ones along, the leads, the pads, the vocals, the SFX, the effects sends group, etc., all go into pre-master. Pre-master then goes into post-master. Pre-master has some settings on it, and then post-master is just literally a leveling. I can bring it down and give headroom. If I want to do something else with it, it's there and it's clean. If I wanted to add something else, it's there. I just like having that extra sort of output before the main out. You don't always have to, you know, use just the main out for your main out. You can set up groups and set up chains of things so that you can have a little bit more freedom in what you can do and how you can analyze things and stuff like that. So next up, what we're going to do is I'm going to load a load of Studio Rack. This is the Waves SoundGrid Studio Rack software. Now, the reason I'm loading that, I haven't got it on at the moment. The reason I'm loading that is because of offloading CPU, which I'll go through. Now, I'm going to move that down a couple of inserts because I like to leave a few free above and below and stuff, just because you're always adding more later on. So rather than having to drag anything down later, you can do that. I think that's another tip I got from someone on a Waves video. Always handy, because I found myself doing it a lot. So I've put a limiter on that output there, and I'm just setting that limiter to -4. Everything as I go into these levels, I'm going to be watching my levels, and I'm going to be very mindful that limiters are on the outputs. I've got, like I was saying, I've got an analog desk, so I've really got to watch my levels going into that. Analog 0 is -18 on digital, so I'm always working with headroom and then bringing things up later. And I find that's the best way to work. I've said it before in other videos, that's the best way to work with plugins, because the plugins aren't aliasing then, and you're actually hearing what the plugin's doing rather than just the clipping of the plugin. Loading those, moving them all along, so all of my groups there have got a limiter on it, all at -4, and that's just sort of taming my peaks. So the way they'll be set is just taming your peaks very lightly. Now this last one, I'm going to put my master setting on. So with this, it's going to be a multiple chain thing, and as you'll see, it won't be, you know, going in too heavy, but it will be going in. So these volume knobs on the Q1 I'm loading are literally just gain knobs, just so that I can reduce or, you know, put up the inputs into what's going to come next. There's a couple of compressors I'll load, and you don't want to go into them too heavy, so that's a gain control. Next up is the RS56, one of my favorites. Put it in mid-side mode, and you see there I'm just moving the side channel. I just give a few more dB on the sides on the master. These days modern mixes are always, you know, quite big and using the sides a lot more than we did in the old times, and that's a way of just, you know, really sort of giving a little bit more straight into it. This is on before you work into this, basically. This is on before, you know, before you start the tune. So next up, just playing around here with the solid state bus compressor from Waves. These are all Waves. You can have other plugins on the SoundGrid network. I don't think I've got any. I think Plugin Alliance and a few others do it, but at the moment I've got all the Wave stuff here. So this is the SSL bus compressor. I've got a few settings on there I'll go through, just get everything else loaded. So we go into the bus compressor, then we go into the CLA 2A. Now I find the bus compressor, I got this from Waves videos again. It was old Nevo. Love watching those ones. The SSL is quite central sounding, and this CLA 2A is quite wide sounding. It's got a nice sort of stereo image to it without going through it. So what I do there is there's no gain reduction going on, and I just level the volume so that I'm just going through it. So next up there, we've got the Kramer. I'll go through some of the settings there on the VU meter you need to do, and then after that, we're going to go with the L316, and we're going to turn off the dither. So just looking through them, we've got the Q1 there for volume, we've got the R56 with a bit of mid and side. You can do EQ as well, I might do some tops on that if needed. Then the bus compressor, then the CLA, then into the tape. So we'll pull that L1 down, and then we'll add another EQ here. This is one of my favourite EQs, awesome EQ, the API 56. I'm adding tops here. This is what I want to add, just a little bit of tops. Put about 5 dB on there. It sounds a lot, but the way that works, that's like little notchy EQ. On low levels, it's peaky, to high, it's notchy. So that's just to sort of cover, you know, the tops after the Kramer there. So just make sure the Kramer's settings are right. I don't want any compression on. The bias, I would want it on over, and with the IPS, we want it on 15 rather than 7. It's a little bit weak on 7 sometimes, a little bit dull on 7 sometimes. So there we have it. Watch your inputs, make sure nothing's reading, come into the RS, go into the bus compressor, nothing going on there on the CLA, and then it goes into the Kramer. Watch your levels on the Kramer, you want to be hitting about between 3 and 5 dB, and then a little bit of brightness there with the API, and then into the limiter. I've taken off the dither, and I've just got about a dB of headroom out of that. Can create more if need be. So then after that, I'll just save that up as a preset. I am putting quite a few of my presets I'm using with the Wave stuff into little folders and saving them. I think there's going to be a Waves Ambassadors preset pack at some point, so I'm going to give a few way to that. There's quite a few that sound grid studio stuff like the racks, and there's quite a few that are individuals as well, so you can look forward to them when they come. So I've named that up as another master setting. I do use a few. This is one of many that I can use, and sometimes I don't use any, it depends. So that's just a basic one. It's not going to like hit your stuff too hard, but you should get a nice amount of glue and control over it, and it can make a little few alterations if need be. So next up, we're going to put the scope, the Vengeance scope, one of my favourite analyzers, in on the input channel and also the output channel. I want to be able to see what's coming in and what's going out, where sometimes I'm not, you know, I'll start a tune, I'm not on the desk, I sort of just going through the computer out to the main out of the desk, and then I'll swap it to the desk and I'll be needing the inputs. So we use that. We also use the waves loudness meter. I'm just loading there. We'll load that on both sides, so just copy that across and have that there. That's great for really checking your sort of levels and seeing your true peak level, you know, essential along the way to help you get a nice sounding mix overall when it comes to pumping that loudness at the end, as it were. So after this, we're going to do some effects. So I load quite a few effects. One sec, just have a cup of tea. Again, I'm using the studio rack here. Again, it's so I can offload the CPU. You might have seen my video on SoundGrid Studio. If you haven't, go and have a look. I like to use it, so I don't always use it to start off with offloading. I'll build a project like this with Studio Rack loaded, and then as it gets big and I need to, I'll turn on the server and yeah, put it on, you know, and saving electricity and all that. Won't use it if I need to. But it's lovely to be able to get to a project, you know, starting to get really large, and rather than having to bounce absolutely everything, you can just turn on the server one, keep the CPU going. So I'm just going through here, naming these effects up as I'm chatting away. And what I'm doing first of all, I've got a small reverb, then I'm doing a medium reverb, then I'm doing a large reverb. I'm going to have another reverb, which is like a sort of space effect that I like, that I put on a few things. That's the Abbey Roads reverb. That's really nice. After that, I'm going to do some delays. So we're going to have, you know, different size delays, slightly different settings with things, but we're going to start off with like a 32, very quick, quite bright delay. And then I think we'll go with an 8th. Just keep these simple. You can change these later, you know, but I want these all on my sends, on my default already, so it saves me time. You know, when I'm loading a project, I mean, I've got, I don't know, 12, 13 effects there. I've got folder channels, I've got 12 odd group channels. You know, look how long this video is so far. It takes a little while to load these things, so having this as a default is essential. Setting up the way you like it and the way you want and what you want and what you use a lot. You can go even further than what I'm going to go here, but for me, this is a nice default. This is what I use. So I'm going through the effects there. I've done, you know, quarter delays, half delay, whole delays, etc. So first of all, we'll look at the reverb and the settings for this. So I'm going to go into an EQ first of all. I do this with all my reverb sort of sends. Don't do it on every single send unless I need to, but with reverbs I tend to. And it just stops them being so muddy. So come across and take off. Put on a high pass there, and I'm taking it across probably about 300 hertz or so, maybe a bit higher. Your minimum, I'd say 300, higher if you want. And the top end, I'm just rolling off there, bring it down about 7-8k. Bring up the bottom a bit more, about 500. We don't want it muddy. You can see it's curving off a bit lower, but I've started rolling it just over 500 there. So then I'm going to load the H-verb. I quite like this one. Abbey Roads is my favourite, but this is also very closely second. So I'll go in and just load one of my presets that I've got, and then we'll build from there. I'm going to start off with sort of a small one, so we'll have to take a few of these things down. So we'll just bring a few of the early reflections and decays and stuff down. Watch the size and bring that size right down. This is very short. This is a short, bright reverb, so I'm going to keep that quite short there. Keep the tail, you know, 50-50 as it were. The output's up there. I'm going to do that down. Want it about 0 dB, so it's not, you know, boosting everything that it shouldn't. Now there's the little echoes on there. I think we'll take them off. Let's go in and have a look at them. We've got the EQs and everything in here. There's some lovely modulation stuff. I should really do a video on this plugin. It's an excellent plugin. So I think I'm going to take them off and just look at the early reflection. Put it on number 1 there. quite like that one for short reverbs. Might change it later for the longer ones, might not. So just curving off the low and the high there on, I believe that's the pre, and now on the dampening as well. Roll off the low and just a little bit high. And I'll change these slightly, so that's the brightest one, and then as I do the medium, I'll just sort of curve those down a little bit, make it a bit duller, that sort of thing. So we'll go and have a look and set that up now. If I just copy those over, it'll probably be a little bit easier, and then I can, yeah, sort of take it from that one. So copy those over for the 3, 4 reverbs, and then I'll load that. So in this one we're going to go to medium, so I'm going to put a little bit of pre-delay on it, and a little bit more of the decay time. That should do, and a little bit more build, and yeah, I think we're cool with that. Just roll off the tops a touch more. And then this being a longer sort of reverb, but, you know, it's slightly duller, not so in your face and bright as the other one. And roll off that a little bit. That should do for that. And then we'll go in and do a long reverb, so make this a lot longer. So you've got contrast and reverb, but they're all sort of from the same preset. So, you know, they're all going to sound very similar, but the space is different. So again, I'm just, you know, adjusting the pre-delays and the builds. And just setting them so that they suit the length of the reverb. You know, the longer the reverb, the bigger the pre-delay, etc., etc. And again, with the filters, I'm just sort of making the longer ones a little bit duller. And that's just a default. They're not golden rules. This is just, you know, like I said, my defaults. I find, you know, this is quite coherent, gives you coherent sounding sort of space and mix, because it's all coming from the same. So in this one, I'm going to load the Abbey Roads. I do love this reverb, absolutely brilliant. So we're going to bring down, put on the bass cut. That's the bass cut there. Going to bring down the sort of setting that's the length, but also kind of makes it change. Bring down the treble. Put it on D. I think D's the valve. We like that. Give a bit of drive. That helps pump it up. A little bit of pre-delay. Not too much. It's just a sort of. It's a big space, but because of the sound of the plugin. But it's sort of, yeah, I'm not setting it up as a big space. It just sounds big. So I bring down the dry wet on this. I normally don't bring down the dry wet, but on this one I do, because it's just such a powerful sounding reverb. I could do it on the send levels, but you know, I've got them defaulted to come up at -6, so I do that. So then next I'm going to do my delays. So bring them down. I'm not going to use waves on everyone here. Cubase has got a nice little ping pong delay that I use here and there for the bits, short and tight, and it's good on CPU. So I'll do a 30-second there. Roll off a little bit of the low. Up to about 300, just over that, and roll off a bit of the high, say 10k or so. Keep the spatial maybe about the same. Roll the dry wet right the way up, and then if I copy that over, I'm going to do the next one on eighths, very similar. So just go in and change the settings here. Yeah, we'll keep them the same, maybe a little bit wider for that one. And this one, I think, yeah, we'll load a Waves plugin for this rather than the Cubase. It's got a lovely delay, my favourite delay plugin from Waves, I think, H delay. So first of all, I'm going to go into an EQ for this and just sort of, yeah, roll things off and make them sound a little bit smaller. I haven't done it with the other delays, but I kind of know the sound of that Cubase delay, and I like just the filters on that. This one's a very powerful delay, so I'm going to like roll off some of the stuff beforehand, control what I'm sending into it, as it were. So I think I'm going to do this on quarter delay, this one, and bit more feedback. Yeah, keep that up. We'll do the high pass, 100 or 200 or so. You can go up to 300 there, actually. I've EQ'd it all off before. That will roll off. We'll keep it a little bit though. We'll go, 4 or 5k, maybe a bit lower actually. Go down there. Now we'll leave the modulation. We'll leave the lo-fi for now. So that should do on that one. And then I think I might load. Let's just do the tempo there, because it was at 120, and I'm saving the default. So another thing I'm going to do here while I'm saving is I've backed up this project. Now, when you back up the project, it creates the little audio folder so you can keep everything together. So I'll back up this in defaults, and then when I load it, before I start a new tune, I will save this I'll back it up in another project for that new tune, and then all the audio files I load go into that folder. So this is just for the default, and then like I said, I'll open this, and then when I start a tune, the first thing I'll do will be backing it up to another project. So everything I add, like I said, I'm repeating it because it's very important. It's good that you keep your samples together and good that you keep organized. Trust me, years of mistakes, it is what's telling you this. So yeah, we back that up, and everything now I load into it will be going into that folder. Yeah, so we'll do another one here where we will load an EQ beforehand, not quite that much, and then roll off the top and the bottom like we usually do. And then I'm going to use, actually I don't know if I'll use H delay here. There's another delay I like as well. I might key that for the bigger one. Should we see? Yeah, let's just let's load Manny Marroquin. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, sorry. This is a lovely delay plugin. It's got some nice after effects after the delays. Now all those delays so far, I'm just loading the delay. You can go much further with that chain, add reverb after, add phasers, you know, more delays at different times, whatever you want. So here we're going to have a look at this one. We're rolling off the tops and the bottoms again. I've set up the times. I want a bit more feedback than that. Now this isn't the sort of loudest sounding delay. I think because of the section at the bottom where you can add more effects, there's a little bit of headroom given when you send stuff in here. So I'm going to add some of these effects. I've just had some reverb, and I'm going to add a little bit of distortion. Not too much, just send it a little bit and boost it up. And give it a little bit of width as well, I think. Give it a bit of space. We'll leave the doubler and we'll put on the phaser. Just subtly here, very subtle and nice and slow. So not that obvious. So that's a load of effects after the delay. And that's the EQ that comes before it. So everything goes into there, gets filtered a little bit, then into there, getting the effects, and then getting even more effects afterwards. Now, because of the sort of, like I said, that I find it's a lovely delay plugin, but I think because you can distort it afterwards, it's a little quiet. It might have a sort of duck a few dB on the way in, I'm not sure, but I like to add a compressor after this one. It sort of brings up those effects and brings up everything. You can do this with reverb, with delay, lots of things. So I'm just putting in ratios of the BPM there, keep everything good with the release on a ratio to BPM, punch we want off, attack, all that happening quite quickly straight away. Obviously these settings, when you do get sound in here, you can go and check the levels and adjust them. I'm not going to want more than 3 or 4 dB of reduction on that, but this is just to get you started on the defaults, so you're saving time. So next up we're going to go and load, what should we do here, one more delay I think, and we'll do like a 1/1 that we've got signed down there. So this one we're going to do the last delay, the 1/1. So we're going here and we'll do the ping pong, and then we'll go down and do the filter. Roll off the lows, roll off the tops a little bit. I'm going to put up the feedback a little on that. Analog I'm going to take off. I think I forgot that on the other one, so I'll have to go back and check that and take that off those other ones. The thing with the analog settings on some plugins, you don't want loads of them. I mean, I'm already, like I said, I'm already using an analog desk. So, you know, if I'm using like 10, 20, 30 plugins that are all adding analog as an effect, it's going to end up getting quite noisy. So make sure your analog settings on any modeled plugins are off, unless you want that on that specific plugin, and just watch them adding up. So next up we're going to load another effect. This is a real favourite of mine. This is let's go to modulation, we'll find it and load it. So this is the Abbey Road ADT. It's a lovely tape to load plugin. You can have all sorts of phases and flanges and lovely sounds in here. Sounds great on leads, guitars, vocals. Can be extreme, can be you know, on unextreme. Here you can move the millisecond of the vary speed there. So it's a beautiful tool. LFO range there I'm playing with. You've got drives, you've got panning. So you can offset it quite a lot. There is a little sort of check-in. You've got your phase there, so you can check. You can offset your phase, and you can check there with stereo mono, because this spreads things quite a lot. So it's good to check what you've done and what you've done isn't out of phase and losing too much in mono. So yeah, that's a lovely plugin. And for the last one, I think we'll load another here and go with, I think, another Waves. I think we'll do the Vintage Warmer. So here we have the Vintage Warmer for the last one here, and you want to put it in AX mode. That simulates how it was used as a send. You can use this on inserts as well, and you need to change the mode to do that. It's all up in the manual and you can check it. So that's really nice on just giving like a little sheen, a little brightness, a little sparkle to things. Just add a touch on the sends to your beats, percussion, you know, bits and pieces that might need a bit of life. It's really nice. So next I'm going to load the last thing here. We're going to have Fab Filter, I think. So I'll just send it out into my group, out to the effects send. Sometimes I put this back into the sub, but for now we'll put it in the effects send. So I load the Fab Filter Saturn, a distortion, multi-band distortion plugin, and for now I'm just going to put it on Broken Tube, and be careful with the setting. As you go all the way, you'll get a bit of noise coming through when it's not on, so you'll need to gate it. So don't put it all the way, give it a little bit of presence, a little bit of treble, put it up, and with this it's something that I'll use with the sub to put it in to give some perceived tops just on the send, rather than distorting the whole sub. It's a nice way of doing it if you just want that top end to come through for smaller speakers. So there we have it. We've got there our effects sends, our groups, our folder tracks, and everything set up that you need. So save it again and you're away with a default that will last you a while and save you a lot of time.
The music shall echo for all time.